Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my favorite nonfiction I read in the year 2021. I really enjoy nonfiction, and it's been a goal of mine for the past few years to read more, and it is still a goal I am working on. But of the 15 or 16 nonfiction books I read, these are the 9 that I really enjoyed and gave 5 out of 5 stars to and would recommend. So let's talk about some nonfiction. So the first one is, this book is Antiracist by Tiffany Jewell. This is a really good short book to start the conversation about how to be an anti-racist ally and to fight racism. It's actually like a workbook type nonfiction, so it actually has prompts for you to get out a notebook and start writing down some of the prompts that it leads you to discuss in the book. And so I think this book is really good as like a beginner's guide to thinking about your own prejudices and biases and working through some of that and then becoming a good anti-racist. So that is definitely one that I recommend. Then we have 400 Souls, a community history of African America. This is edited by Ibram X. Kendi and Keisha Blaine. My friend still has it, which is totally fine. I just have the dust jacket of this one. This is a bunch of different contributors take 5 years of history and fill in the gaps of what we, as in general, I'd say white American children who went through the public school system missed. And so this is almost like little vignettes focusing on each 5-year period for the last 400 years of Black people in America and what that looks like, some of the stories that we've never been told, and this was incredible. I highly recommend this book. Obviously, with so many writers, there are going to be some sections that don't work for you, and I found that to be true for me. Some of the writers, their writing styles just didn't jive with me, but overall this book was incredible, and it opened my eyes so much to some things that I'd never even heard about. So I highly recommend 400 Souls. Then we have kind of a different vibe. We have Lady Killers, Deadly Women Throughout History by Tori Telfer. I hate to say it, but I had fun reading this book. This was about basically female serial killers throughout history. But it wasn't just about them, it was also about the media response and the sensation of serial killers and kind of how male serial killers throughout history are kind of glorified and in the press and sensationalized, whereas women are not. And so that was kind of an interesting topic to discuss, and that also gave these women like historical context for when they were killing, why they were killing, how. I thought this was fascinating, and I got into true crime this year, watching like some documentaries and stuff, and so getting kind of like a female perspective kind of opened my eyes a little bit to this avenue of history, and I just thought it was really fascinating. And there's some like mythologized historical figures in here too that it was interesting to read, like kind of the true story of who these women truly were instead of like the sensationalized version of them. So I thought it was great. I had a great time reading this. Fascinating but gruesome at the same time. Then on the complete other side of the spectrum, we have Know My Name by Chanel Miller, who is a sexual assault survivor, and this is her memoir about her emotional trauma going through the trial, her perspective on the assault, and healing from the trauma of not only the assault, but the media coverage of this particular case. This was heartbreaking and so hard to read, but so important. She has such a way with words. She's a really, really amazing writer, and I hate to say it, I enjoyed reading this, but this was such an important read, and I really do recommend this book to everybody if you can handle the subject matter. It was really hard to read. I was feeling physically ill at times reading some of these chapters, but I think Chanel's story deserves to be heard, and I think it's worth it. I mean, I'm just a bystander, and this woman actually went through this, and so she deserves some of my discomfort to have her story told. So again, I really recommend it, but you got to be in the right place for this one. Then we have Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is a short kind of letter format about the author kind of writing to his son when his son is very young about growing up Black in America and like the hopes that the author has for his son. Again, this is a beautifully written but hard-hitting story about what it's like to be Black in America, and it's tough. It's tough to read, but it's also really important to listen to Black voices and listen to their pain. Not just their pain. Obviously, we also need to listen to their joy, but this was just like part of my nonfiction journey to listen to Black voices and to work on my anti-racism in the nonfiction sphere. So Between the World and Me is super good for that. Again, really hard hitting. It's kind of like a gut punch. It really does physically hurt at times, but again, it's super important and very well written. Ta-Nehisi Coates is again an amazing writer. Then this year I also read works by Ijeoma Oluo. I need to practice that. I read So You Want to Talk About Race and also Mediocre. So You Want to Talk About Race is literally a guide for how to talk about race to white relatives, white friends, white coworkers, as well as how to talk about race with other people of color and Black people, and what to say and what not to say before you engage in conversation. This in conjunction with this book is Antiracist by Tiffany Jewell, really is a good guidebook for interrogating your biases and actually having fruitful and beneficial conversations regarding race and what you can do as a white person to combat racism. And then her other book, Mediocre, which is The Dangerous Legacy of White Male America. It has a little bit of a different spin on it. It talks about white male America and how white men can get away with being mediocre or average, and they get lauded and applauded for it, whereas anyone else has to work twice, 3 times, 4 times as hard to get a fraction of the recognition. And so this has to do with this uses so many different examples. One that I can think of off the top of my head is like football, and she talks about cowboys in this, different presidents, both Democratic and Republican presidents. So yeah, I think this is a really great read to continue dissecting race in America and combating some of the education that I was given, for sure. And I just really enjoy Ijeoma Oluo's writing style as well. I think she does an excellent job of discussing these topics. So highly recommend if you're interested in this topic. And the last nonfiction I have on my list that I highly recommend is On Juneteenth by Annette Gordon Reed. This is a very short book, but I think it's one of the most important ones to read, I think, this year or even next year, because we got Juneteenth as a federal holiday, and a lot of people don't even know what that means. So this book gives context, historical context for basically Texas and Texas's relationship to slavery and what happened surrounding Juneteenth, leading up to Juneteenth and after. I'm fortunate enough to have known about Juneteenth prior to this year. I learned about it just 3 years ago, you know, but still, I kind of already knew what the holiday was about, but this just provided additional context for me. A must read, I think, since we now have Juneteenth as a federal holiday, and as a white person, it feels very strange to have Juneteenth off. And so I think this book also talks about what you can do as a white person to celebrate Juneteenth. It's really a holiday for Black Americans, truly. So maybe use your Juneteenth to do some charity work or some volunteering or something like that. But I really liked this book. I think it's really important to read, and I highly recommend it. Those were the nonfiction books I read this year that I highly, highly recommend. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any nonfiction recommendations, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. And I hope you had a great reading year. I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye.